Adrian here, who actually was one of the lead organizers. Adrian, if you would like to comment on the positive thing that has occurred, we would appreciate it.
Muted. Sorry, I had to mute myself. And I don't have a presentation or anything, but I will just say that, can you hear me, by the way?
Yes, yeah.
You can.
And there's
Okay,
no
great.
different presentation, just update.
Yeah, so the update is that, yeah, a lot of us got together and we presented to the council a while back. There was a hearing with the Department of Land Use that they mentioned that Parks was looking into our concerns about having that parcel acquired by Parks, for future parkland, and preserved and acquired by Parks. Then we went ahead and we wrote a letter to Bruce Harrell and the acting commissioner or superintendent of Parks, and we got a fairly quick response that they were very interested in it. They were and they think it would be an excellent opportunity to have a park there. They were, of course, they said they're in contact. They're trying to contact the owners. They're not sure who the owners were, and of course they can't guarantee anything because of tight funds, etc. But apparently they're working on it. But we haven't heard back from them for, I think it's been maybe a month now. But yeah.
So what's really significant about what's happening with the North Neighbors campaign here is that there's about 48 folks who organized, and there are 2 plots of land, and they basically gave input that we're a green desert. They want that to be preserved for trees as well as a play area for the children around the neighborhood. And the issue that we highlighted on Beacon Hill Council is that even if they got a hearing, if the rules were the same, without integrating Green New Deal ordinance, which talks about climate and community resiliency, the rules would be the same. So in a way, it was good that they held off on a hearing, and that the parks people emailed Andrew and a bunch of us back to say that they're going to try and buy the land. Again, it's going to pivot on if the owner is willing to sell the land or not. So I'm also going to report on the South Beacon Hill. Our neighbors are organizing around the Noji Gardens because there's a big development that will basically, initially when it was put out, that they would be able to preserve trees. And then the second version with a different developer is that the fire department is looking to put an egress that would cut down 100+ trees. And there's also sensitive land areas within those trees. So Tiffany is the president of the Noji Gardens. There's a existing development, and she and Alice Park organized to get a letter to say what are the negative impacts of that aside from the trees. It's going to increase traffic in the area wherein it's not even paved. There's no sidewalks. Those big fire trucks are going to be coming through them, and there's a lot of impacted communities. There's a low income housing area. There's a large foster residency, foster kids residency in that area, and then it's just going to come back out and have a lot of traffic congestion because there's no direct egress to go to MLK Way. So they sent that asking for a hearing basically, and there's a newly assigned planner. And what we did at Beacon Hill Council is, in collaboration with them, took that information and sent it to Jessen Farrell, who's the director of Office of Sustainable Environment, Chief Scogins, and the director of Office of Planning and Community Development, to basically say the same thing. We're going to lose 100 trees. This is part of climate infrastructure. If the same rules, if it's going to be reviewed with the same rules, we're going to lose it. What is it that you can do collaboratively? And got a email from Chief Scogans, basically assigning it to the fire marshal, his deputy, and I got a call from the fire marshal, but I missed it. I was in meetings today. So let's see if something collaborative and different can be done. And again, a lot of this is, there's a lag time. You've got the planning development rules, but the climate law, climate ordinance that was passed has not been integrated into those rules. So I'm just gonna pause on those two areas before I go to the Seattle Green New Deal funding, because that has a lot more information. Any comments or questions on the first two items? And if you do, it's okay. You can unmute yourself readily. I'm not seeing any, so I'm going to go and move on to the 2022 Seattle Green New Deal funding. So there's a Seattle New Deal oversight board that was put together to be able to identify community priorities and recommend them for the 2022 $6.5 million that was set aside. Beacon Hill had asked for money for oil to electric home conversion. We didn't get that from the 6.5 million, but we were also reminded within the 2022 budget that the former Mayor Durkin had already allotted, there's 1.7 million in that. So we are monitoring this to make sure that it goes through. And we're also looking at submitting a grant to Seattle Environmental Justice grant so that we can do community resiliency planning in Beacon Hill, because we have so many cultural groups and 40% of our population is immigrants and refugees. So trying to figure out what are the natural points of connection and comfort in being able to go to a resiliency site when heating issues, when smoke issues, if there's a power outage, those kinds of things that we need to get started. We also have Evelyn. Evelyn, if you want to chime in, we'd appreciate it, because I know you work with Devin from Council Member Morales' office, and see if there's any other things that you want to highlight.
Yeah, are you just talking about general like city type of updates?
Yes, please.
Sure, yeah. Sorry, did I cut you off before you said anything else?
No, go ahead, please.
Great. And you also have Amelia here, who's a great resource as well. But I'm happy to just give a few, I guess, relevant updates that may be of use for the council, and then happy to answer any questions as well. As folks here might know, we are wrapping up our policy season soon for the year. The mayor will be delivering his proposed budget in about 2 Tuesdays on September 27th. And then on September 28th, the council will prepare to review the mayor's proposal. And we will be in a budget season until November 22nd, when the final vote happens. So if there are any, additional requests for the budget that folks here would like to see, please get those, either to our office or any of the other council members who are relevant to your causes as soon as possible. I'm happy to pass along a little bit more information. They finally, I think, updated our website with when the public hearings will be. And just for a heads up for everyone, we are anticipating a shortfall in the budget cycle of approximately $100 million. And so, fighting for money for South Seattle and all of our communities will be certainly more challenging this year than most others. And at the same time, we will be going through a parallel budget cycle with the Seattle Parks District. Currently, I know in D2, there are a few investments that we've already secured, including for the Rainier Beach Skate Park, and for the Beersheba improvements around their art installations. We're hoping for a few more, but yes, that is just kind of a overview of where we are in terms of the budget cycle, and where our mind is and our energy is shifting towards in the council. Yeah. Any questions?
Evelyn, can you speak about the oil heated home tax deferral?
Unfortunately, that's actually not in my portfolio, or else I would have a little bit more of understanding to be able to relay. Yeah, I don't really have any updates on that specifically right now. I apologize, Maria.
No, if you could just email it to us or whoever, that would be
Sure.
great. We can
Yeah.
share.
Yeah, I'm happy to follow up with Devin. I think he's the lead on that.
Okay, super. I'm going to go back to the list. The last item is the October 4 elections. So we are recruiting for council members. The time commitment is about 3 to 4 hours a month for the meeting, but in between we conduct a lot of the business because many things go through. Aside from the council, we also have opportunities that Beacon Hill Council Environmental Justice Task Force to get involved. So we just really encourage everybody to do that. The applications is really simple. You basically have to live, work, or own property in Beacon Hill. And we basically ask you 3 questions, where do you live? What's your passion? And what would you like to accomplish? And we email that out to you. Because we remember we are volunteers. And at the same time, the environment demands a lot of us. So the more different kinds of skill sets we have, the more connections to different neighbors, different cultures, that's really important and helpful for us all. So more information will be coming out in writing on that. So I'm putting together an article that will come out in the South Emerald for the elections. Okay, just checking in. Let me just go ahead and do the Fix the Harm update, the Beacon Hill campaign. So Christina Chu is our contract community engagement, environmental justice educator and organizer for this project. And she's going to be winding up her time. So she's helping prepare a report for the grant. But the punchline here is that we were able to connect with our partners to articulate what is the harm that happens with Beacon Hill when we have aircraft, air and noise pollution, and how it impacts us as an equity, as a BIPOC community, and as well as what are the impacts with regards to climate. So we're doing that campaign, and we now have exceeded 1,000 signatures. So our plan with that is that when the SAMP, Sustainable Airport Master Plan, comes out, which talks about an expansion of the service capacity for SeaTac Airport, we want to use that to be able to articulate, to respond to the environmental assessment that they're doing, to say, you have to look deeper. We would like an EIS for both the short-term and long-term plan. So we will be publishing that report on our website. So there'll be a notice that will be coming out. So with that, we are a little early. We're about 5 minutes early. And I want to check in if we have our King County International Airport team. Peter, I saw you come into the room. And hi, Kevin. I see you. And Lorenzo. I'm looking at my screen. Let me take down the agenda. Okay. So we're going to transition. And Linda, if you can please do the introduction to this. Linda is our co-chair for the Beacon Hill Council Environmental Justice Task Force.
Hey, everybody. Let's see. I may have met a bunch of you at the Beacon Arts Street Fairs tabling, but one of the things that came up frequently was having conversations with the airports that are nearby. And the King County International Airport has been great about reaching out. I think they did a community survey a little while ago I am on one of the committees regarding air and noise monitoring. And so they have agreed to attend to give you an update on what they've been doing and the results of the survey. So there you go, guys.
Hi, good evening. Can you guys hear me okay? This is Peter.
Peter, do you need me to make you a co-host? Are you going to have a presentation?
At this point, I didn't think we had enough time. I know it's only 15 minutes, but we just wanted to provide you a quick update, as Linda had mentioned. We're working on a few projects together. So right now, I mean, if my voice is fine, we could talk about the projects that we've been working on. I think a couple of the ones that we wanted to talk about today is one of them is air monitoring that we've been air monitoring plan that we've been a project we've been working on since actually last year. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is just give a brief introduction about that. Kevin from our group has been helping in that process. He developed our work group plan for that project. The other project is a landscape maintenance plan. So we had sort of combined those projects for the airport that currently what we're working on. And Lorenzo, frankly, we basically just brought him on board to be our community engagement specialist. So he has been with the airport for quite a while, but in his new role as a community engagement specialist, we'd like to include him to a lot of our other projects that are coming up, especially the phases that are going to happen as part of the air monitoring and landscape monitoring plan. I'm glad they're here with us today just to listen in. And Kevin will provide us with a little bit of a background on the community surveys. But initially, we just wanted to just go over a brief introduction about the project itself. The air monitoring plan was basically developing an air monitoring plan to determine the type of air monitors and where would we be installing those monitors at the airport in comparison to what has been already installed around the surrounding area by Puget Sound Clean Air Agency. So Puget Sound Clean Air Agency has also been part of those work group meetings with us. So they've been an invaluable resource for us with the knowledge they have in the specific area for air monitors. So as part of that phase one process that we just went through and completed, we did go through research and reviewed pertinent information. Some of them were provided by the work group and the community folks that were in that work group with us, including Linda. So they were very useful to our process, as well as information from Puget Sound Clean Air Agency. We identified data gaps from that review, as well as presented that information to and conceptual options in a technical memo. As part of that process, we went through bi-monthly work group meetings to solicit that feedback from our group, as well as the technical folks in the group. And we also, as you have heard, conducted a community survey as part of that work, and also performed a workshop after that send out of information related to that survey. And finally, we, as part of those deliverables, we created a technical memo as part of that first phase. Before we go into phase two of that work, in which we just I have some updates on, I'd like to go ahead and hand it off to Kevin to give us some of the findings that we found from the air monitoring community survey. So, Kevin,
Thanks, Peter. Can everybody hear me?
take it away.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. I think I've met a few of you before. I'm Kevin Nectarline, he, him. I worked at the airport for a little over 3 years now. I'm a capital program manager on the engineering team, manager internship program, and co-lead our equity and social justice change team. I've also been kind of helping with some of the community engagement efforts since our last kind of master plan effort back in 2020. And I just want to make sure, I think maybe at the end, Lorenzo, I want to make sure Lorenzo gets a chance to introduce himself, because we're very lucky to have him on full time as our new community engagement specialist. So we have someone fully dedicated to this. I saw he put his information in the chat. And so really quick, I'm going to share my screen if possible. Great. First, just really quick, I want to just, in this forum, thank Linda. She's been an integral part of our working group for our air monitoring plan project and our landscape plan. Can everybody see my screen? Okay, I'm seeing some head nods. And Linda put in the chat here, this is our community engagement web page. And you can see we have we have 3 community working groups right now. These were determined based off our last master plan effort, kind of the projects that community members were most interested in participating in. And so you can find a little bit more about each one here, kind of the charter, who's participating, etc. And then if you weren't able to attend the community workshop on the air monitoring plan and landscape plan, you can see the slides in the workshop video here. I'm going to go over the results of the survey real quick, but just wanted to orient folks to this web page before I do. Okay, and please interrupt me anytime if you have questions. So as Peter mentioned, we had a community working group that participated in phase 1 of the project. Really, our goal was to get community involved really at ground zero. So Linda can attest, we were at a blank slate of options for the project. And so really wanted to get community input at the very beginning. At the end of phase 1, there's a community, the members of the community working group suggested that we do a workshop and come up together with questions to ask. So all the questions that we asked in this community survey were developed with this community working group. So before I go on, I just want to see, Linda, is there anything else you want to add just from your perspective before I jump into the results?
No, I just know that you made a real effort to reach out, and we were just limited by languages. We did the best we could to get engagement, and hopefully in future we'll get more participation as we're able to do better outreach.
Yes. Okay. Thanks, Linda. Yeah, we had a great. I'm not going to read this word for word, but we translated the survey into 7 different languages. We had it online on our website, and we both had it in paper copy as well. We had a great partner with El Centro de la Raza, which is where I believe we got all of our Spanish survey results from. So that was a really great partnership. We received 5, I'm going off the top of my head, but we received 5 Spanish survey results, and I want to say around 35 in English. We didn't receive any in any other languages. We posted in the Georgetown Gazette as well, and that actually people learned about it there, and that was a really good way to for folks to learn about it as well. Oh, here we go. It says right here, 33 in English and 6 in Spanish. And you can see kind of generally where people lived. So we can see we had really good representation from Beacon Hill and from Georgetown. So one of the questions was, what makes you think about air quality in your community? The top 3, you can see diesel trucks and smoke were by far the top 2, and then aircraft was 3rd. And you can see then we've got smells, dust, visibility, and trains were kind of the rest of the options. When do you notice air quality? So this is trying to see, is it seasonal? Is it just kind of time of day? Does it depend on the day of the week? And you can see here, seasons of the year was by far the largest result. And then we had some we had these quantitative questions, but some qualitative ones as well. And we just, in this thing, we just kind of picked a few to highlight kind of the trends in the qualitative answers. As you can see, summer is kind of when people most, notice air quality issues. And then where would you like to see an air monitor within the KCIA property? So that's part of the next phase of the project, is to determine what type of air monitor, and then where on airport property can we locate it. And so a couple of the answers, the top answers were Ruby Chow Park, Georgetown, South Park, or other location on the west side of KCIA. This survey was a combined survey with both our air quality project and our landscape plan project. So I'll just go over this really quick in case you're all interested. So we're also working on a landscape plan, and wanting to hear what folks thought on what was important for them. And so you can see here, top 3 were native species environmental benefits like carbon sequestration and local sourcing. And then we got a few options of like what visually did people like in landscaping, and then community involvement in these projects. So some of the ways people wanted to be more involved was a website, which I think we can improve our community engagement website. Planting the new landscaping, that's a great idea. And then, some kind of interesting things with working with high school students. So you can, for the survey, you can see most people found out about it from our website. Nextdoor was the second. Then we had, a couple other responses. And then just kind of additional comments. So that was the survey. And I talked a little bit about the outreach we did to get folks to answer the survey. Are there any questions or comments on this? Oh, Maria, I think I see you're talking.
Yes, thank you. This is good work, very good work. And I hear you about our struggle at Beacon Hill because of our population is always trying to get folks involved who are normally not involved. So one anecdotal that I want to share is it's interesting, a lot of people responded from Beacon Hill, but there's no monitoring that was identified for Beacon Hill. And I remember that I was at that area that juts out over the freeway, wherein if you look out, you see directly Boeing Field, which is run by King County International Airport and International Airport. That is a very noisy area, absolutely noisy area. And I'm wondering if there's consideration to have an air monitor there. It's not, because part of the question is if we're hearing it, we're probably breathing it also.
Yeah, so I think part of phase 2 in this project will be to determine the location. Part of determining what a good location would be is kind of the direction of the aircraft, like taking off and landing, as that's kind of when the where the particulates are most likely to be. But that'll happen in phase 2 of the project.
Well, I'm just curious because our understanding is that there's no data for military airplanes or Boeing airplanes. And that's part of thank you, Peter, for nodding, because that's part of the traffic that comes in terms of aircraft traffic.
I mean, what do you mean no data?
Well, our understanding, now, if you have data, that's great. So please include that data in the assessment. I don't know if the discussion is going to be about jurisdiction, but definitely the different planes. King County runs the Boeing airfield. And there's also military planes that come through. And what we were told, and again, we would love to be wrong, is that the military airplane data is not available. So we just
So-
want, if possible, factor it into your study.
Okay, so I think, and Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, but any, these air monitors would capture all the, all the data, all the particulates, right? And that was part of the project, is to determine, we wanted to get a high enough quality air monitor so that we could try to parse out where that pollution or those particulates are coming from. So my understanding is that it doesn't just the monitor doesn't discriminate by what type of airplane is coming in or out.
Yeah, I wasn't commenting on the monitor. I was commenting on what you were saying is phase 2 will be determined by the direction of the aircrafts that take off and land. Because your director had given me a pictograph wherein the King County International Airport aircraft itself does not directly fly over Beacon Hill, which is sort of, on the edges of it. But I'm hearing neighbors talk about Boeing Field in the military aircraft. So how can that be part of the
Phase 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. I think that's really good
Yeah.
feedback. I don't know, Peter, if you have other
I could,
comments, but
mhm.
I think we can add it.
Yeah, well, certainly, air monitoring is really about collecting data for us. I mean, because we don't have air monitoring type data. These are particulates, and we can't mistake that, of course, with noise data, which operations is working on right now in terms of noise monitoring, for example. So these monitors obviously are different. Some, will deal with noise, some will deal with particulates and emissions. And we're going to be, this particular project with air monitoring is about particulates and emissions. So we'll, first of all, we wanted to start this effort because we just don't have data at this point. The only data that we have is the ones which are great, which is from Puget Sound Clean Air Agency. And they have a great distribution of air monitors around our area. I believe there's one in Beacon Hill, there's just one north of us, one south of us, but these monitors that we're going to be working on are going to be within airport property and along the flight tracks related to when they come in. As you might well know, our runway is north and south. So, we want to concentrate on those directions of the airport. And also we have a great distribution from Puget Sound Clean Air Agency in terms of monitors to the east and west of us. So there's one in South Park, there's one in the Duwamish area, and I believe there's one a little bit north of Beacon Hill there. So we're just trying to make a better distribution within just a local area of the airport, and looking at that data and just start collecting it. Because I think that's the effort in the beginning, is that we don't have data at this point in terms of what we're collecting directly at the airport, and down the road we'll look at that data and continue to collect it and provide that data to our community members who would like to see that data, and continue to do that. What we'll use with that data is to make some correlations and do some analysis down the road on potential distribution, looking at wind patterns. So that's what phase 2 is going to be about. So just a little bit of a segue going into phase 2 is really determining those locations and making sure that we have a good distribution around the area to collect that sample, along with looking at the data from Puget Sound Clean Air Agency and making it make sense to us in terms of what those emissions look like. So it's an ongoing issue for us. We'd like to know ourselves too, because certainly it's come in the forefront about certain climate change and whatnot and air emissions, and it's certainly something that we start to like to work on and collect data for, because we just lack it. So more to come, definitely. Our next steps really for phase 2 is, and we've already executed a contract on it for a consultant, and they'll be working with us to look at additional data and actually looking at the locations where we can install it. Of course, our work group will be looking into providing their feedback on these locations when we discuss it in our work group meetings, and then actually installing them and start collecting data. Now, it doesn't say this is where we're going to stop collecting them. It could certainly progress later on based on the data that we collect. So I think initially we just want to collect some data to see what that looks like. So, and then as part of the deliverable for that, really for phase 2 is to have monitors actually out in the field collecting that data. So we want, it's intentional for us. It's certainly something we want to do. So we can understand what's going on out there. And we've made some comparisons to what CTAC has researched on. We've seen some UW research data as well, with the help of our work group members that provided some of those research reports. So certainly the data is out there, and we're going to learn from that and place things out into the field and collect data. So.
Peter,
Mhm.
we're going to extend the discussion time. We have 3 questions on deck, one from Megan.
Okay.
And then Linda, and then Andrew. Go ahead, Megan.
Thanks. I'm just curious for phase 2 if there could be consideration of scoping out what schools are nearby and prioritizing those, because that's a pretty vulnerable population to air pollution. Like my kids go to Maple Elementary, and there are planes that are going like right behind the building. I think that those are the same planes, although I could be wrong. Just hoping that could be a consideration.
Yeah, I think we can look into that. The hurdle we would have to overcome is that we wouldn't own that property. We'd have to do like an easement with the school. And so the initial scope was, where on airport property can we install an air monitor? Because we own that property and we can just install it. So, but I think that's something we can look into. Certainly for this phase 2, and then potentially for future air monitors in the future.
Kevin, we'll help on that, because Beacon Hill Council, I myself, with a UW study, initially was going to be on the rooftops of the schools. So I climbed on 4 different rooftops to find locations. And we still know what the good locations are in the schools in Beacon Hill. So definitely we have a good relationship with Seattle Public Schools and the school principals. So we can help out on that, okay?
Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah, data is always good. I mean, if there's new data, we'd like to, if possible, you can share some of that when that gets started. Definitely.
All right, Andrew.
Sorry about that. So yeah, so just to reiterate, that you're simply looking at putting monitors on King County on the Boeing Field or King County International Airport property. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, it does sound like the concern, and I guess I was just addressing the last question, but like, fine, you get data there, but what's happening to your neighbors? How are we being affected by this particulate? It does seem interesting. Like you mentioned that you'd have to have an easement in order to put your monitors there. So that tells me that there's kind of this idea of ownership of the equipment and the data that's a result of that equipment.
Well, yeah. I mean, the airport would own the equipment. Yeah, and I mean, I guess technically own the data, but we certainly are going to make the data public.
So,
Okay.
and also, Andrew, the agreement we had with Seattle Public School is they wanted to be briefed about the data before it goes public, just in case they need to take some actions that would be helpful to whatever the data might be presenting. So that's part of the agreement, and it's a collaborative piece that happened. And the commitment of the researchers in this instance will be King County International Airport. They have a commitment through their community participants on their advisory team, as well as commitment to community to make that data public. So that's why we have confidence in their word.
Okay, good to know. Okay, thanks.
Linda, you identified a question in the chat box.
Yeah, the question came up previously about the Inflation Reduction Act and if that will have an impact on KCI air and noise monitoring plans. I stuck the link into the chat if anybody wants to read it for themselves. It's a longish read.
Yeah, and I guess I don't know that we have an answer at this point how it would affect that. I think you know, we already had plans to pay for and installing these. Yeah, I haven't read the whole EPA report, so I don't know how it would affect it, but I know, you know, we were planning on moving ahead with this project even beforehand.
Right, but well, maybe hopefully there will be some funds to help us expand it a little more.
Yeah, that'd be great. Do we have time to introduce Lorenzo? I would love if he could just jump on the screen so you all can just virtually meet him quick, since I'm sure you'll be seeing a lot more of him.
That'd be great. And congratulations, Kevin, on your promotion. Lorenzo, can you go ahead, please? There you go.
Hey, sorry guys, I am actually in the car right now, driving on my way home. Yes, I've been with the airport now about 2.5 years. Excuse me, 2.5 years. And I recently got promoted to this new role, and I'm actually really excited. So far, I've been out to a few different community events with Georgetown and the Museum of Flight. So I'm actually really looking forward to getting into the community of Beacon Hill, meeting new faces and seeing what we can do as an airport to help you guys out. So thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Lorenzo, and welcome. Okay, let's give him a hand for coming and for the good work, and thank you, Linda, for representing us in this effort.
Thanks, y'all.
Okay,
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
you bet.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right.
Okay, so the next item is announcements. So I'm just gonna tell you what's on deck, and then if you have any that you want to add, that would be great. As you know, we operate, Beacon Hill Council adopted the El Centro de la Raza Air and Noise Pollution Community Action Plan that was adopted in 2017. We've made a lot of great strides, and the process, El Centro will be having a Zoom community meeting on October 15 to update the plan. So, you know, be on alert. There will be notices coming out. Also, Congressman Adam Smith has started the outreach on the FAA reauthorization bill. So one of our beloved air and noise aircraft pollution organizers is Eric Stanford, and he always says there are 2 times that you really need to get out and organize. One is during the summer when doors and windows are open so people can hear and they can sometimes smell what's happening out there. And then the other is during the FAA reauthorization. So the relationship is FAA gives approvals on flight paths, which the airlines ask for, and then they have a contract agreement with the airports to accommodate those flights as much as, you know, as they're able to. So our Beacon Hill Council EJ Task Force is going to have a meeting this Thursday with Congressman Smith's staff, and then we will plan for a larger community engagement. Other than that, just to reiterate, we're going to have elections on October 4. So spread the news. Please consider running. This is a what we call service for the love of Beacon Hill. You're not going to make any money out of this service. So any additions, events that you might want to call out for the good of the order? So I'm not hearing any. Well, I just want to say thank you to everybody for taking this hour out of your evening to come together. Let us know what you think about these issues, any comments about the presentations or how we're moving forward, so that we can take that into consideration. And again, I know several of you came for the North Bike SDOT's presentation, but that's going to be in October. Yes, you have your hand up, Mitchell?
No, I was putting my hands on my head because I was raising my glasses to read the chat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, not a problem. Good talking to you, see everybody.
Thank you.
So, walking around. And with that, we'll say good night to everybody except for the council members stay so that we can have our board meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good
Thank
night.
you, everyone, for coming. Appreciate
Thanks
it.
a lot. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.